against same-sex marriage. Now you're for it. You defended President Obama's immigration policies. Now you say they're too harsh. You supported his trade deal dozens of times. You even called it the gold standard. Now, suddenly last week, you're against it. Will you say anything to get elected?
Well, actually, I have been very consistent over the course of my entire life. I have always fought for the same values.
Establishment Democrats control us and cheat us. And specifically about this election coming up in Philadelphia or Pennsylvania's 18th congressional district, but how that applies to the whole United States, how every district is being done this way. You know, basically the establishment Democrats have got it rigged to where there's like 700,000 people in this district, and all they did was they called up their friends and told them to all show up. Okay, so anyway, so all I'm saying is that on top of everything else, they're one step ahead of us. So if we manage to take over the government, get Medicare, get SS, get all these things, they'll be one step ahead of us. They'll be making sure that SS doesn't get people what they want and what they need, or what they so they'll be scamming the system that took over these committees. But each state has committees, and whatever they are, all these committees and these institutions, whatever they are, this system that they've set up, that they are completely in control of. Okay, we need to wipe that out. Voting members of the SCEC, State Central Executive Committee. It's not even got a Democrat in it. The governing body of the Kentucky Democratic Party. You know, so I'm in a state where the conservatives control everything. They control the Republican Party, and they control the Democratic Party through these DLC Democratic claims to have the intention to listen. You know, they shouldn't even be listening. They should be progressive and evaluate their input. No, you don't evaluate. Healthcare as a right, education as a right. Those things aren't up for evaluation anymore. I'm going to talk about that. Look at this. Progressives are a minority in the 18th district. Why don't you let that be determined by the voting that you're not having, huh? This is fucking medieval shit, right? And these people are fucking assholes. Just amazing that they could even stand a chance of winning. Whew. Disgusting. And, you know, and then on top of that, that's what establishment Democrats are going to say. Well, you don't want a guy like this winning, do you? So you need to vote for us. No, we don't want a guy like this.
Do you think New York State should recognize gay marriage?
No.
No. Okay.
I believe that marriage is not just a bond, but a sacred bond between a man and a woman.
I have not supported same-sex marriage. I have supported civil partnerships and contractual relationships.
I support marriage for lesbian and gay couples.
I support it personally and as a matter of policy and law.
So you're saying your opinion on gay marriage changed, or you changed your mind?
I have to say, I think you are being very persistent, but you are playing with my words and playing with what is such an
I'm just trying to clarify
issue.
so I can understand.
No, I don't think you are trying to clarify. I think you're trying to say that, I used to be opposed and now I'm in favor and I did it for political reasons, and that's just flat wrong. So let me just state what I feel like you are implying and repudiate it. I have a strong record. I have a great commitment to this issue, and I am proud of what I've done and the progress we're making.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I just want to clarify what I was saying. No, I was saying that you maybe really believed this all along, but, believed in gay marriage all along, but felt for political reasons America wasn't ready yet and you couldn't say it. That's what I was thinking.
No, that is not true.
It really is great how long you've supported gay marriage.
Yes. I could have supported it sooner.
Well, you did it pretty soon.
Could have been sooner.
Fair point.
Okay, so today's show is more or less about how establishment Democrats control us and cheat us, and specifically about this election coming up in Philadelphia or Pennsylvania's 18th congressional district, but how that applies to the whole United States, how every district is being done this way. Basically the establishment Democrats have got it rigged to where there's like 700,000 people in this district, and all they did was they called up their friends and told them to all show up at this gymnasium, and got 500 people from around the district, which are their people, to show up. They said only about 2 people out of 500 voted for a progressive. So it's not a vote, it's just
Activists pressure Democratic Party to pick progressive to run for Tim Murphy's seat. Chris Potter, Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. See Piotr at postgazette.com. October 17, 2017, 3:09 p.m. Congressman Tim Murphy's sudden resignation has prompted a stampede of candidates seeking to replace him in Pennsylvania's 18th district, and a coalition of progressive Democratic activists don't want to get trampled underfoot. On Tuesday morning, a group of 9 activist groups, claiming roughly 12,000 members in the district and statewide, sent a letter to state and local Democratic Party officials, urging them to pick a party nominee that reflects progressive values, asserting the races with the right Democratic candidate truly winnable. The letter said that its activists stand ready to mobilize on behalf of a strong nominee, one who is willing to take a stand on priority issues. Those issues, the activists say, should include a pledge to support Medicare for all health coverage, and who will robustly support efforts to combat climate change, and will stand up for unabridged reproductive rights, racial justice, humane immigration policy, strong unions, sensible gun legislation, and full civil rights for the LGBTQ community. Tim Murphy, U.S. Congressman, wins Republican primary in 2012. Tracy Moriello. Tim Murphy, the voice for values who went astray, an expert on anger who succumbed to it. Mickey Reedy, an activist with Progress 18PA, said the letter was sent because we wanted the people doing the picking to know what this activated base of volunteers is looking for. Some activists, she said, were concerned that party members believe the only way to get somebody elected here is to find somebody who is inoffensive to more moderate or conservative voters. Up until Mr. Murphy's decision to resign, the preferences of party leaders were less pressing. Democratic Party voters were expecting to choose a nominee in next year's primary themselves. But Mr. Murphy's resignation, which is effective October 21st, means a special election process, in which officials in both major parties will choose nominees that will square off next year. The three candidates who'd been running before Mr. Murphy's announcement: former Allegheny County Councilman Mike Crossy, former Department of Veterans Affairs official Pam Iadino, and emergency physician Bob Solomon, had met with activists as part of their campaign efforts. But since the announcement, they've been joined by Westmoreland County Commissioner Gina Cirilli and former U.S. Prosecutor Conor Lamb. Miss Cirilli identified herself as pro-life and pro-sportsman in a Post-Gazette interview last week. Mr. Lamb declined to speak about specific policy issues including abortion during his campaign kickoff on Saturday. Ms. Reedy said the letter wasn't intended to target any particular candidate, but to urge party leaders and the candidates alike to weigh the perspective of activists. Ms. Reedy herself took part in weekly protests outside Mr. Murphy's offices long before his seat was considered vulnerable. In my crowd, the viewpoint is that if you don't get somebody with very strong positions, you aren't going to get the activated base to volunteer, she said. Representative Tim Murphy, RPA, checks his phone as he leaves a House Republican conference meeting at the Capitol in Washington, Wednesday. The 8-term Pennsylvania Republican announced last week that he would resign October 21, 2017. Tracy Moriello House Speaker pressured Murphy to resign, sources in D.C. Pod say I think all of their points are valid, said Nancy Patton Mills, the chair of the Allegheny County Democratic Committee. Many of their positions are in line with the position of the Democratic National Committee and the state party. But she said choosing a candidate for a place like the 18th District was tricky. The 18th includes portions of Allegheny and 3 other counties: Greene, Washington and Westmoreland. It straddles affluent suburbs, rural areas, and hard-pressed post-industrial towns, and while Democrats have a registration edge within its boundaries, Republicans drew those lines to maximize their own chances. Donald Trump and 2012 Republican nominee Mitt Romney won the district by roughly 20 percentage points. This gerrymandered district makes it difficult for any one candidate to appeal to the entire area, said Ms. Mills. Right now, she said, I think we don't even know who the candidates are going to be. Ms. Mills said candidates would likely have the November 3 deadline to seek the nomination. Then committee people will select the nominee in mid-November. Ms. Mills said she'd have an exact date by the end of Tuesday. Ms. Mills said that committee people would weigh a number of factors in selecting the nominee, including the passion of activists and the preferences of voters. I have a vote, and I take all that into consideration, she said. To some extent, the choice before 18th District Democrats is similar to the choice facing the party nationwide in the wake of Donald Trump's 2016 win. Should the party focus on mobilizing its activist, progressive base, or moderate its message in hopes of capturing voters that went with Mr. Trump? Ms. Mills said that nobody is an inside track on the party's support. And not matter what the candidate's platform is, it's going to be better than the Republicans. It remains to be seen whether, for activists, that will be good enough.
So I'm going to cover that, and I'm going to cover how committees, Democratic committees in each state, pick delegates, and how at the convention the delegates pick the committees. So they have a revolving scam going where they pick themselves, and then they claim that they represent the whole district. I mean, it's really amazing, and it could never go on a national basis. But these little places where these committees and these conventions pick themselves, they can get away with it, because the Democrats in those places, the vast majority, aren't even aware that it's going on, because nobody calls them and says, come down here and vote you know. So we obviously are going to have to change it to where we actually have an election. I mean, these are people who are picking who's going to be the next senator, the next congressman, and therefore the next president. That's how they cheated Bernie, because it's all the state committees who pick the delegates who go to the national conventions. So we're going to have to break that up. Now, how we do it, whether we do it by just storming these places, and I don't mean violently, I just mean going massive numbers. Anyway, I'll probably talk about that in another segment, because honestly, it's so draconian, I can't figure it out. But I'm working on it. Okay, so the basic scam that these Clintons and Obamas and the establishment Democrats have pulled upon us is just a classic coup, right? I mean, what they've done is they've installed all their own people, because the real Democrats, most of which call themselves progressive at this point, just weren't paying attention, you know. So back in the late 80s, early 90s, they just basically took over all these committees. They put themselves in as the state delegates, and most of the delegates are people who are already senators or whatever. So and the way that they've set it up is so that, and all elected people in this country are set up this way at this point, and that is to where they can get the few people who support them, and they can get a few people to support them, and those are the people of course, they want only those people to show up to vote, right? So most people who are inside like us, because I mean, we're basically people who care about all Americans. That's where we're different, right? They promote themselves, and they believe in taking care of themselves over everybody else. We don't believe that. We want a war on poverty. We want a war on, and to that end, of course, we want a war to give people basic needs, right? The things they need, the basic things. After that, it's kind of vague with progressives, because they're moral people, right? They care about everybody under them suffering, and most Democrats also care about the world, but let's take care of our house first, and then we'll move on to the world. And I think while most Democrats, real Democrats like us, progressive Democrats, while we care about the world, I think that we all agree that we can't do anything about the world, well, first of all, until we're in power, and second of all, while our own country is suffering from poverty. Let's do it here first, and then let's show the rest of the world how we did it, and help them if we can. Maybe send people to advise them, maybe just set up trade, maybe financial aid. But we're not going to do financial aid the way that it's being done right now, because it's an imperialistic kind of system. So what I'm saying is that they've got control, between their media and other ways of promoting themselves, and the fact that, okay, so here's the real crux of the problem, right? The delegates elect the people to the committees, and then the committees decide who the delegates are. Okay, so they've got us kind of in a bind. We're going to have to figure out a way. So we're going to have to take over the delegates. We're going to have to install our own delegates. We're going to have to choose our own committees. So we got to take this system away from them. So, well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to dig into, I know that the delegates pick the committees at the conventions. So I think the first thing that progressives have to do is demand elections. I mean, obviously we're going to have to win the elections and replace these Nazi establishment Democrats. And at some point I think what we need to do is, instead of having 500, and by the way, when I said whatever number I said for Pennsylvania's 18th district, it's actually 700,000 people in that district, and 500 establishment Democrats all crammed into a gymnasium and decided who would be the next, and then the next nominee, this Connor Lamb guy, who's basically a Republican. And then they jump up and down and go, yeah, we won. And then anybody like me who says, hey, wait a minute, how do you do that, to us? And they say, hey, we won. We had a thing, and we won. And that's all about, I've got some articles on that, and I will put them into the as voice files. You'll see where I put them in, so you can listen to them, and a few other articles about this that I think are informative, and I'll throw them in as voice files so that you can basically hear them. Okay, so I love Bernie, but at the same time, I don't even know what the point is in putting a whole lot of effort and emphasis on getting the passage of single payer right now is. And I pointed out by commenting, this is of course.
The prescription for medicine.
Okay, so, you know, great, they go on and on and on about how bad it is and what needs to be done. But at the same time, they're not really doing anything. And I say, I guess this is for people who don't know this already. So people who don't already haven't heard this 1,000 times, you know, about how many people are suffering and how bad our health care in this country is. Constantly going on about diabetes. Now, diabetes is, see, because they're always one step ahead of us. And while they're making sure that we don't get health care, and they're making sure already that when we do finally win in 2 years, or maybe next year when we take over the House and Senate, what we'll get will be substandard. What we'll get will be a healthcare system that is hostile to us in every way, hostile to providing care, geared towards selling us products that don't actually do anything for us, that just funnel our healthcare dollars, our Medicaid, Medicare, our government collects money from the taxpayers and then manages to basically sham us, basically smoke and mirrors healthcare system that takes that healthcare money and funnels it back into the ultra rich's pockets through their companies and their corporations, while really doing very little for the actual people, us, right? I know, I was on Obamacare for, well, since 2015, right? And they must have chalked up a pretty good bill just based on on having me in their system. But I got nothing. You know, they tried to sell me diabetes stuff, but you know, diabetes is just test your blood and they say, oh, you got too much sugar in your blood, right? However you want to go look it up, and they explain it really well. I don't know very much about it, but you know how you control diabetes? You don't take pills. You exercise, you eat less, you get your weight down. And then once you've got your weight down and you've still got diabetes, you exercise more. You have to become healthy, basically. I mean, and diabetes, you know, to take a sickness that some people are born with that is really debilitating, where their body doesn't, where their gland doesn't work right. I forget which one it is. Anyway, in your body, you have things that control your blood sugar. And to give the name away to basically a scam that the doctors are doing, just to get your money, to get your Medicaid money, Medicare money. Okay, so anyway, so all I'm saying is that on top of everything else, they're one step ahead of us. So if we manage to take over the government, get Medicare, get SS, get all these things, they'll be one step ahead of us. They'll be making sure that SS doesn't get people what they want and what they need, or what they, so they'll be scamming the system itself in order to make sure that it doesn't provide what it's supposed to the people, while still funneling the money on through, claiming that you know, so to they're trying to make it appear like Democrats are winning, right? And that they are getting what they want, which is healthcare, education, housing for the people. And they'll be doing just the opposite. They'll be working that system so that they can funnel that Democratic money in and then out the other side into their pockets, while the system doesn't actually provide the product. Okay, now this isn't really what I'm here to talk about, but it's a good stepping stone into what I'm here to talk about. So what I say here is I'm more interested in seeing actual deeds, not talk. The talk is boring me to death. Let's talk about how we're going to get progressives in control of this country. Okay? Progressives in control of this country. So you see, I'm talking about the real thing, right? Because if we're in control of the country, then we can control what is actually done with that money. We can troubleshoot and get the corruption out of the Medicare and Medicaid system, which the doctors and the administrators and the insurance companies are using just to soak up that money. We can get control of that, but we have to be in control of our own party. Okay? Now that's what I'm here to talk about right now. How do we get control of our own party? And I say, how are we going to take over all the Democratic state committees across this country that are strangling us? And how are we going to do that? Because, see, what I looked into the other day, well, we'll get to it, but basically I looked into this state Senate or House race, I forget which one it is, for the 18th district in Pennsylvania. And we'll get to that. And what I found out, but I'll tell you what I found out basically, is that the state committee got 500 people together and they sent them all to this one place to have a little convention, and those 500 people spoke, and they were from all over the state. So they're establishment Democrats from all over the state. They go and get together in a room, a big room obviously, 500 of them, and pick who the Democratic nominee is gonna, who the guy is basically, who's gonna run against the Republican. 500 people from all over the state get together in a room and decide for, I think it's like 18,000 or 20,000 people who are in the district, who the nominee's going to be. The 18 or 20,000 people in the district have no say. They have no election. Their senator or congressman, whichever one it is, this guy who is against abortion because he's a Catholic, right? So he's automatically against abortion, and is not, doesn't even, he says, well, I'll look at universal health care and see if it's feasible financially. So this guy's not a Democrat at all. I mean, this guy's a Republican light, right? And they get together. You see what I'm saying? I mean, isn't that, I nailed it right there, didn't I? I mean, that's awful, right? That they're doing that. So now let's multiply that by 50 plus places like Puerto Rico and Guam, these places that are quasi-American, and say that what we've got is a problem of all. So we need a 50-state solution. So what we need is to go, they did the same thing to us, these establishment Democrats, these fake Democrats, these Dinos, these Democrats in name only. They talk about a 50-state strategy. Well, Their 50-state strategy was to get them into power. So they want, and I don't know if they just took over these committees, but each state has committees. And so, and whatever they are, all these committees and these institutions, whatever they are, this system that they've set up that they are completely in control of, okay? We need to wipe that out. We need to either just take over the party and say, look, all the committees are gone, all the state committees, we're going to create new ones, and progressives are going to be in charge. And establishment Democrats, you know, you're welcome to vote for us. You're welcome to remain part of the party, but you're not going to control the party anymore. Just like we're going to take over, after we do this and we take over the Democratic Party is going to take over the United States, and we're not going to allow all these institutions and systems and whatever to control our lives and the destiny of the American people. We're going to control that through the Democratic Party, which is going to obviously destroy the Republican Party, because the Republican Party, it's only winning based on schemes and scams and stuff. It's not actually winning based on an intelligent electorate making a popular vote. You know, an intelligent electorate that knows the truth and is given the honest truth is gonna back us by the millions, instead of a few people trickling out to vote for Republicans or establishment Democrats. Millions upon millions, the vast majority of the Americans are going to pour out and vote for universal health care. You know, just the whole thing. I'm not going to go into a big list. We all know what they are. And like I say, when I'm talking about this thing that they're doing here, you know, there's nothing new here. I mean, let me see if I can get it to play. And
volunteers. So this tells you the scope of the volunteer spirit here in America, that people want to help, and why the government needs to allow doctors to cross state lines so that these volunteers can provide free care.
And until we do this, until we provide a better system that allows us to take care of our patients.
Okay, so, you know, it's the same old shit, right? And I mean, I'm getting tired of it coming from Bernie. I'm getting tired of it coming from everybody. All it is talk about stuff. I mean, we've been talked to death. Now, my only hope is that they're doing this to try and get more people in. Like, I guess there's people out there. I mean, it's hard for me to believe with my experience that there's people out there who don't really know anything about this. And if they are, they're probably just the poor people who don't have access to the internet yet and don't get to see this stuff. But rich people and Republicans and establishment Democrats, they all know all this stuff. They're just somehow stuck in a rut. Stuck in a rut. Stuck in a rut. Stuck in a rut. Do a little Monty Python here. So, you know, maybe Bernie and these people all think that if they pound away, they'll get that, you know, bang that person in the head so that they stop saying stuck in a rut and actually start doing stuff. But what we have to do is just what I said. Just what I said about changing the system, changing all these committees and everything. So here it says, the latest fight for the soul of the Democratic Party is this Sunday in Pennsylvania, in a Pennsylvania high school gym. And, you know, I will just scan this in and turn it into a voice recording and make it available to you right here in the recording. And Basically, I've already told you what I found out about this. This is about, see, can an anti-abortion, pro-gun candidate win? So they're talking about this Catholic guy. What's his name? Anyway, I don't even care what his name is. You know why? Because I don't give a shit. He's just another, I mean, they're putting Republicans in, and Democrat in name only, hoping that they're going to attract the vote in these supposedly conservative. Well, are they really conservative? I know people who live in the 18th district. They're not conservative at all. So maybe
the latest fight for the soul of the Democratic Party is this Sunday in a Pennsylvania high school gym. Can an anti-abortion, pro-gun candidate win? Clint HENDLERNOV 18 2017 6 o'clock A-meter illustration by Mother Jones. Looking for news you can't trust? Subscribe to our free newsletters. Email sign up on October 21st. Republican Congressman Tim Murphy formally resigned from Congress. The seven-term representative from Pennsylvania had always enjoyed strong ratings from pro-life organizations, but when the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette revealed that he had been carrying on an affair and had suggested his mistress seek an abortion, his 14 years in Washington were over. To progressive activists who had spent the opening months of the Trump administration bird-dogging their congressman, pressuring him to hold a town hall on health care, and holding weekly rallies outside his office, the resignation kicked their efforts to replace him into warp speed. According to Mickey Reedy, an activist from Mount Lebanon, they had already built an army of volunteers ready to go when we had a candidate ready to do the legwork to flip the district. That candidate will be selected this Sunday, when hundreds of Democrats from southwestern Pennsylvania gather in a high school gymnasium to pick the nominee who will compete in a March 13 special election to fill the now vacant 18th congressional district. The state party predicts 800 delegates, mostly precinct-level committee people, will attend to cast rounds of secret ballots until one person emerges with a majority. It's an unconventional process, and one that has surfaced echoes of larger debates among Democrats, fueled by ideology and identity, about how progressive their candidates should be as they fight across diverse and challenging districts to try to reclaim the House of Representatives in 2018. It's going to an old-fashioned Democratic Donnybrook, says Mike Crossy, the former head of the Pennsylvania State Educators Association, and a candidate himself. Since the caucus-like system was announced, Crossy has competed with 6 other candidates working the phones and flooding small party gatherings to try to bend the ear of, and collect commitments from, as many of the small pool of voters as possible. The district, home to just over 700,000 residents, spans 4 largely rural counties, starting about 90 miles east of Pittsburgh, swooping below the city and extending south and west to Maryland and West Virginia. The suburban portions include precincts where Hillary Clinton bested Obama's 2012 numbers, but just a few miles further from the urban core, you'll start finding territory that stretches to the ends of the state where Trump outperformed past Republicans. In 2016, he won the district by nearly 20 points. The Cook Political Report has described the race as very tough territory for Democrats. But it's not impossible. Given the current warp speed of politics, March 13 may seem like a long way off, but the special election, like earlier off-cycle contests in Kansas, Montana, South Carolina, Georgia, and Virginia, will surely be read as a bellwether for Democratic prospects in 2018, especially since the district is home to many registered Democrats who voted for Trump, helping to deliver Pennsylvania's electoral votes to the GOP for the first time since 1988. And while the party's selection process may have avoided a protracted primary, it hasn't prevented division. Last week Reedy's organization, Progress 18PA, released a letter co-signed by a coalition of groups claiming to represent thousands of progressive activists warning caucus goers not to select one potential Democratic candidate. What we need to win this is a candidate who can get Democrats excited. Her name is Gina Cirilli, a 31-year-old former Miss Pennsylvania and a relative political newcomer who first took office as the chair of Westmoreland County's Board of Commissioners in January 2016. Her website from that campaign boasts an endorsement from LifePAC, a Pennsylvania pro-life organization that is also opposed to same-sex marriage. Cirilli did not respond to an interview request, but when she joined the congressional race she described herself to the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette as a moderate Democrat pro-life, pro-sportsman, and pro-union. There are 70,000 more Democrats than Republicans in the 18th District, but the Democrats here vote Republican, Cirilli noted. They're waiting for someone with their values so they can vote within their own party. Progress 18PA takes the exact opposite view. Ms. Cirilli would have you believe that she is the one candidate in the field who can win this district because she is conservative and can get Republican votes. We vehemently disagree, the letter read. What we need to win this is a candidate who can get Democrats excited. While Cirilli's platform remains a major issue for progressive activists, the letter also catalogs her mere steps from the campaign trail, accusing her of deploying tactics that Progress 18 found reminiscent of their old nemesis, Representative Murphy. For example, she decided to file a lawsuit against party officials to force them to fill vacant committee positions in her home county, which could have stocked the caucus with her supporters. The letter closes by promising that its signatories will work tirelessly in the upcoming campaign but only for the right person. Last weekend, District Republicans met at a country club and selected State Representative Rick Sacconi as their candidate, picking him over two more moderate state senators. Sacconi, who has boasted that I was Trump before there was Trump, may be best known for pushing legislation to allow schools to display the national motto, "In God We Trust." The Democrats attending Sunday's nominating convention in Washington, Pennsylvania, will pick from 7 candidates. 3 of them had declared interest in the seat before Murphy's meltdown. Pam Iadino, the vote that's endorsed former naval officer and ex-assistant secretary of Veterans Affairs, Bob Solomon, an ER physician, and Crossy, the retired educator and labor leader. After Murphy resigned, they were joined by Connor Lamb, the former Marine and federal prosecutor, Reuben Brock, a counselor and college professor, Keith Seawald, an activist and writer, and Cirilli. Democrats in the state expect the strongest contenders to be Lamb, who comes from a prominent Pennsylvania political family, Iadino, whose campaign was well established when Murphy imploded, and Cirilli, who is counting on heavy support from Westmoreland County. Nobody I know in the activist community is willing to knock doors for her, says Reedy. We worked too hard to make this district flippable.
That's bullshit. And if they are conservative, then maybe we should be promoting our message and trying to convince them that being conservative isn't really working for everybody in their district, and that maybe we should start, I mean, we've got the message. The conservative message, the anti-abortion, pro-gun message is not winning. This is bullshit, So then prove it to us. Let us run. Let us promote our ideas in the district in the 18th and see if we win. If we don't win, then you can go back to your Republican Democrat that you want. So I'll provide that. And mind you, a lot of the stuff that I provide may be propagandistic. Certainly Mother Jones, I think at one point it supported Hillary and may still, and establishment Democrats. So just because I put something in, like these articles, just to give you perspective, you have to read them and sift through them with an eye to the progressive movement. So you have to say, well, gee, that's not right. So if this talks about trying to promote a Dina, you have to just take that as info, not as fact. Okay? So I tried to connect with people at Progress 18 Pennsylvania org, and I did connect with them. Unfortunately, they're establishment Democrats. They have no right to even put the word progress in their name, because it suggests progressive. And they're always trying, establishment Democrats are always trying to steal the progressive movement, because they just want the momentum of the progressive movement, while they don't, they're not real progressives.
Progress 18 PA 527 people like this, including Tom Leaderbatch and 26 Friends Community Organization. Saturday 11:59 a.m. Martin, where is the progressive? We want Nerdland added a new photo. Buttons. Buttons. We have the buttons. They'll make their debut at Sunday's Women's March on Washington, Pittsburgh. Be sure to get one while supplies last. Special thanks to Pittsburgh Buttoneer, who was able to accommodate a rush order. It was a pleasure working with a local union business. We want Nerdland Progress 18 PA. Thanks for messaging us. We try to be as responsive as possible. We'll get back to you soon. Martin, I will be back in about an hour. Progress 18 PA. The Progressive was soundly defeated at the Democratic Special Election Nominating Convention in November. Nearly 500 committee people from all over the district gathered, and the Progressive candidate could not garner more than a few dozen votes. The Progressive has no chance of winning this district. I don't like it either. But there is. A lot more work has to be done to educate our neighbors about the value to them of progressive ideals. That is going to take a long time. Go to Conerlam.com and read his positions on the issues. Progressivism is not black and white. It's shades of gray. And I think Connor leans progressive on many issues. He's open and easy to talk to and understands progressive values, even if he has to temper his positions to attract more conservative voters. Politics is compromise. The far right thinks otherwise, and look, they got themselves a government shutdown. We can't afford to make the same mistake from the left. If he's not progressive enough for you, then I'm sorry. We can't help you. You, like everyone else, will have to vote your own conscience in March and November. Good luck. Seen by Progress 18 PA at Saturday 12:43 p.m. Martin, I won't vote for an establishment Democrat. I will vote against them if they have even the chance of winning. First, if they don't have a good chance of winning. Progressive Dems have been kicking the shit out of Republicans since Trump won. I am sure you know that. It's a mistake putting this guy in. He will probably lose the committee. People must go. They don't represent the Democratic Party. The party is progressive now and the SD Dems will be just a bad memory. Why 2020? Maybe I have the wrong person. Where is Mickey Reedy? Is she not around? I'd like to talk to another progressive. Martin 11:59 a.m. Martin, where is the progressive? We want Connor Lamb added a new photo. Buttons. Buttons. We have the buttons. They'll make their debut at Sunday's Women's March on Washington, Pittsburgh. Be sure to get one while supplies last. Special thanks to Pittsburgh Buttoner, who was able to accommodate a rush order. It was a pleasure working with a local union business. We want Connor Lamb. Progress 18 PA. Thanks for messaging us. We try to be as responsive as possible. We'll get back to you soon. Martin, I will be back in about an hour. Progress 18 PA. The Progressive was soundly defeated at the Democratic Special Election Nominating Convention in November. Nearly 500 committee people from all over the district gathered, and the Progressive candidates could not garner more than a few dozen votes. The Progressive has no chance of winning this district. I don't like it either. But there is. A lot more work has to be done to educate our neighbors about the value to them of progressive ideals. That is going to take a long time. Go to ConorLam.com and read his positions on the issues. Progressivism is not black and white, it's shades of gray, and I think Connor leans progressive on many issues. He's open and easy to talk to and understands progressive values even if he has to temper his positions to attract more conservative voters. Politics is compromise. The far right thinks otherwise, and look, they got themselves a government shutdown. We can't afford to make the same mistake from the left. If he's not progressive enough for you, then I'm sorry. We can't help you. You, like everyone else, will have to vote your own conscience in March and November. Good luck. Seen by Progress 18 PA at 12:43 p.m. Martin, I won't vote for an establishment Democrat. I will vote against them if they have even the chance of winning. First, if they don't have a good chance of winning. Progressive Dems have been kicking the shit out of Republicans since Trump won. I am sure you know that. It's a mistake putting this guy in. He will probably lose the committee. People must go. They don't represent the Democratic Party. The party is progressive now and the SD Dems will be just a bad memory. Why 2020? Maybe I have the wrong person. Where is Mickey Reedy? Is she not around? I'd like to talk to another progressive. 11:59 a.m. Martin, where is the progressive? We want Connor Lamb added a new photo. Buttons. Buttons. We have the buttons. They'll make their debut at Sunday's Women's March on Washington, Pittsburgh. Be sure to get one while supplies last. Special thanks to Pittsburgh Buccaneer, who was able to accommodate a rush order. It was a pleasure working with a local union business. We want Connor Lamb Progress 18PA. Thanks for messaging us. We try to be as responsive as possible. We'll get back to you soon. Martin, I will be back in about an hour. Progress 18PA. The Progressive was soundly defeated at the Democratic special election nominating convention in November. Nearly 500 committee people from all over the district gathered, and the Progressive candidates could not garner more than a few dozen votes. The Progressive has no chance of winning this district. I don't like it either, but there is. A lot more work has to be done to educate our neighbors about the value to them of progressive ideals. That is going to take a long time. Go to ConorLam.com and read his positions on the issues. Progressivism is not black and white, it's shades of gray, and I think Connor leans progressive on many issues. He's open and easy to talk to and understands progressive values even if he has to temper his positions to attract more conservative voters. Politics is compromise. The far right thinks otherwise, and look, they got themselves a government shutdown. We can't afford to make the same mistake from the left. If he's not progressive enough for you, then I'm sorry, we can't help you. You, like everyone else, will have to vote your own conscience in March and November. Good luck. Seen by Progress 18PA at 12:43 p.m. Martin, I won't vote for an establishment Democrat. I will vote against them if they have even the chance of winning. First, if they don't have a good chance of winning. Progressive Dems have been kicking the shit out of Republicans since Trump won. I am sure you know that. It's a mistake putting this guy in. He will probably lose the committee. People must go. They don't represent the Democratic Party. The party is progressive now and the SD Dems will be just a bad memory. White 2020. Maybe I have the wrong person. Where is Mickey Reedy? Is she not around? I'd like to talk to another progressive. Martin soundly defeated my S.
So, this is just a domain registration report. So, on this page, what I was doing, I did a Google search, Kentucky Democratic Executive Committee, and I came up with a bunch of stuff, and I found out, I'm a Democrat, lifetime Democrat. I didn't even know that these committees existed. I didn't know that the establishment Democrats are funneling our taxpayer money into their pockets for use to promote non-democratic, non-progressive ideas, and they do it in these committees, and these committees are the main thing that I see right now. State Committee, SCEC, I mean, it's even got a name like that, right? And I've probably got, so here's their site, State Central Executive Committee, and basically what this explains is how they all get together. Just look, 51 voting members. So this is all controlled, maybe less so than it was, but is still controlled by establishment Democrats. We have to break this. We have to smash this down in every state. We have to show these people that they're not running the party anymore. They're not running my party. I mean, if there's no way for us to do this, then I agree. Third party. And that's not going to work for us. But that will be all. And So we lose right there. So in a way, this is a kind of do or die situation. We either take back these voting members of the SCEC, State Central Executive Committee. It's not even got Democrat in it. The governing body of the Kentucky Democratic Party. You know, so I'm in a state where the conservatives control everything. They control the Republican Party, and they control the Democratic Party through these DLC, Democratic, you know, what I've talked about in another, anyway. DLC is something that y'all need to understand. But we're not going to talk about it right now. So these are things that, like I say, so all these people, so you got chair and vice chair, Ben Self, okay. Well, what we're going to find out is that Ben Self is not, is an establishment Democrat. And we're going to find out that Neville Blakemore, vice chair, is not a progressive, but is an establishment Democrat. And we're going to find out, the more you look, the harder you look, that our lives are run by a few people with a lot of money who are at least getting paid off. Maybe not a lot, but you know, it doesn't take millions of dollars to pay people off. Just offer them a job that pays them $150,000 a year, like Ben Self, chair of the State Central Executive Committee. See, all this is just foreign to me, and it's repulsive. I don't even want to know about it. I'm just forcing myself to learn about this stuff, because this is where I need to bring down the hammer, and you guys need to do it for me. I'm not going to do it for you. I'm not going to make this happen. You all need to learn about all these executive committees and bullshit titles that they have all around the country in each state, and you need to go after them, okay? So here's a New York Times article about the Kentucky Democratic State Convention. And the first thing that flashes into my mind when I see this is lots of black people getting up and getting in charge, which normally I would say is great, except for if the people who are controlling us are as smart as I think I am. They are very quickly infiltrating these black communities and making sure that they find the people who, you know, fake themselves as doing stuff for the people in very devious ways, and get in and basically usurp the whole thing and ruin it for the people. Make sure that blacks don't get what they want, don't get help, because that's what they need, right? Is help. No, they don't need nanny state. They don't need a handout. They need help. And there's a difference between help and a handout. I mean, yeah, it can come as a handout in the beginning until you get to the point where the help takes over and starts to eliminate the problems that create the need for a handout. Okay, so there's that situation right there. I think I nailed that too. That's pretty much exactly how that works. And what they're doing is they get in there, because help is always, when it comes from the establishment, is always trickle, just trickles, just band-aids, right, to try and keep things from, and it never addresses the real problems. So we need to stay away from that. So we need to get in charge of these democratic conventions, and we have to make sure that we take them over so that we can provide help to these communities, so that we can get away from the nanny state. Okay, so we will create institutions that are available. I say make them 24/7. I say hire lots of people, put them in these places, kind of like what we have now, but on steroids, where everybody gets somebody to talk to. So all the people with all their problems, we provide them with transportation, either public transportation or whatever, get them so that they can come in, no matter how poor they are, so that if we have to go out and find them living in the bushes somewhere under in tents or under bridges or whatever, and make sure that they're given transportation and not lost, and not just, I mean, that's the sad part of everything that I'm talking about, is the people who are out there. And I'm not just talking about the really, really desperately poor people. For sure them, start at the bottom, produce the most investment and effort into them, and then gradually work your way up through all the rest of the people till you're actually up with people who are, not so bad off, and talking to them. I mean, they need less help. They probably won't need transportation. They can probably get a ride or something, So, but do everything that we have to eliminate poverty, to eliminate poverty, from the worst poverty on up to just poverty. And we'll do this by taking over these committees and these state conventions. We'll flood them. If we can get 25 or 30,000 people to attend a Bernie rally, then we can get those same 25,000 people to flood a Kentucky State Convention. And this is what I was thinking. So we have a Kentucky State Convention, or just put in the name of your state. Okay, so maybe 5 or 6 hours before the thing's supposed to start, 20,000 progressives show up at the state convention center, overwhelm any cops or anybody who's there, and simply flood in and fill it up, and not let anybody else in. I mean, we'll be packed in, we'll take over, we'll be in the seats. So everybody else who shows up, all they'll see is that there's thousands and thousands of progressives there. Take control. That's what they do. That's what they do. They do it a different way, though. How they do it is they make sure that progressives don't attend. See what I'm saying? So they go and they fill the hall up because there's no progressives there. Because progressives don't understand what's going on. They don't understand the need to, they don't understand that there's a physical war and that it's being lost by us simply because we don't show up. We don't show up at the polls. The reason that establishment Democrats and Republicans have been winning and controlling our lives and controlling the people of the United States is because the millions of people out there who support our platform just don't show up. So we've found out that we can show up for a guy like Bernie. Well, Bernie isn't necessarily, I mean, yes, he may be the solution, and he certainly will be part of it, and I love his platform and everything, but then he's willing to flip for Hillary. After getting screwed by Hillary, then he's willing to flip for her. So we got a problem there, obviously. But whether it's Bernie or, you know, I forget the names of these other people off the top of my head, and I'm sorry about that because they're great people, like the black girl who's head of our revolution. And these are the people that we need, right? So whoever it is, the millions of people who really rally behind them, but just rally at, you know, rallies. Rallies aren't where these things are happening. They're happening at Democratic state conventions. They're happening in Democratic state executive committees. You know, these things are happening in your towns, at your Democratic headquarters. And even I can't find the time, or I'm often sidelined by my own health and my own economic problems. But I know that there's what you call the, I don't know, executive committee or something that meets at the first Thursday of the month. And I've been telling myself I'll go to this meeting for the last, I don't know, 10 years. But I never go because I've got too many, like, I was sick last Thursday when they had it. And I couldn't make it down there. Plus I don't really have money to spend on gas to go down there. Have to arrange for a vehicle, you know, all these little things. So, and they know that. They know that people like me are strapped with all kinds of personal problems and economic problems and stuff. And they manage to make it, and then they run my party. And I never voted for them. I don't even know who they are, except for Reggie Thomas, who I've stayed in touch with all these years until recently when he refused to become a reboot Democrat, which is a thing I started for progressive Democrats. He doesn't seem to be interested in that. So here he is, Connor Lamb. And look, congratulations, Connor Grant, Democratic nominee for the PA 18 special election, March 13, 2000. So they just go and put this guy in. And I happen to know that there's establishment or progressive Democrats who are actually upset about this bullshit, huh? How they just, a committee. What was that in Star Wars? Han Solo says, this isn't a committee. So here's their Facebook. And look at this. Can we even see my new comments appear at the bottom? This is one I just made, but I don't see. They've erased. They've erased my comment. Well, fortunately, I saved my comment, and I'll show it to you. So that's obnoxious, huh? They erased my comment. I'll even put a thing here, thanks. For erasing my comment. How democratic of you. So let's go to check a couple of things here. So here was my comments that they've erased. I said this is about, okay, so let's go. First of all, let's make it full screen. And I'll try and go. So this is that same thing. We want Connor Lamb. Let me make sure that is the same one, because maybe my comments are elsewhere. Yeah, that's not the same one. I mean, it looks like the same one. I'll just erase this comment until, yeah, I'll leave it there. And look and see if I can find the one I'm talking about. No. See, I don't see it at all. So, go back to this. So I don't know where this post is. It was at the top, now there's another one, and all it's got is my one little comment, but this was the one. So, you know, they put their guy in, and then they all jump up and down, brag about him winning, and he didn't win. All they did is he was installed. And we will treasure these when he is in Congress. And I say, and this was several days ago I posted this when I first found out about this. But Connor Lamb is not a progressive. Where is the progressive? Okay, so Elaine Giarusso says Connor Lamb may not be a progressive, but he has a demonstrated in the intention to listen to those with progressive values. Well, first of all, which values are those? And who cares about somebody who claims to have the intention to listen? No, they shouldn't even be listening. They should be progressive and evaluate their input. No, you don't evaluate. Healthcare as a right, education as a right. Those things aren't up for evaluation anymore. These aren't up for evaluation.
Progress 18PA shared We Want Connor Lamb's post. January 19th at 9:46 p.m. We Want Connor Lamb. January 19th at 9:06 p.m. Buttons. We have the buttons. They'll make their debut at Sunday's Women's March on Washington, Pittsburgh. Be sure to get one while supplies last. Special thanks to Pittsburgh Buttoneer, who was able to accommodate a rush order. It was a pleasure working with a local union business. Sandra Kraft. We will treasure these when he is in Congress. Martin Drummond. But Connor Lamb is not a progressive. Martin Drummond. Where is the progressive? Elaine Russell. Connor Lamb may not be a progressive, but he has demonstrated the intention to listen to those with progressive values and evaluate their input. That's an important quality in a candidate. Rick Sacconi has already demonstrated how he will communicate with constituents who disagree with him. He has already banned me and at least 2 other people from his campaign's Facebook page and deleted my comments from his state representative page. Considering the makeup of the 18th District, progressives are a minority. It's more important to have a candidate who can't actually win by appealing to moderates in both parties. Codner Lamb is the candidate. Martin Drummond. This is about agendas and platforms. For real progressives, there are issues that are deal breakers, like one, taking donations that are from people who wish to bribe our candidates, 2, single payer, 3, pro-choice, etc. So we're just not interested in arguing about these things. The candidate is either progressive or he's not, and we won't vote for him or her, just like we didn't vote for Hillary. I mean, have the SD Dems forgotten already? Amnesia strikes at will. So no, you will lose because you can't listen to the majority of Dems who are mostly progressive. Martin Drummond and I know a lot of people in the 18th and spent a lot of time with them. Just because they are pretty well off doesn't mean they are conservative. In fact, in my experience, they are very progressive because progressives simply want what's best for the country, and so do they. Martin Drummond. And while you can ignore us with your undemocratic thug comedies and powwows where you strip the people from their right to choose, the people of the 18th will not ignore progressives. We will rally the people again not to vote Democrat until we get a progressive Dem. So nicely done again, establishment Dems. Well done, Martin Drummond. Not worth it. Look, people were already winning, which is obvious. It's a fact. When a prog goes up against a con, we win by 15 to 20 points. The SD Dems are lucky to squeak by, but mostly they just lose even with all their cheating bullshit and shit. See more. Manage image may contain one person, mem and text like replied 1D edited Carrie Nagel. Not all Dems are progressive and not all Republicans are Tea Partiers. I hope you can vote for the candidate that is closest to your values. One candidate will try to destroy everything on your list and the other agrees with at least one of your points. Elaine Russell, I don't think you know the 18th as well as you say you do, nor do you know the candidate as well as you think you do. He is agnostic about establishment Dems, as evidenced by his lack of support for Nancy Pelosi. Nor has the DCCC jumped in with wads of cash. So you can rail and kvetch about why the world isn't the way you think it ought to be and throw away your vote, which will allow the Republican to be elected and set your vision back further. Or you can abstain from voting, preferable to throwing away your vote. Or you can vote for a Democrat with a good chance of winning in a district like ours. Or you can have a toddler tantrum and vote Republican. Old proverb: when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. When the district is ready, the progressive will appear. It's not ready. Listen to Dobby. Martin Drummond. ESD Dems have no vision and no message. Your history. Dems are tired of you losing to repugs. They're sick of your excuses. They see progs as not only winning but winning because they have the high road.
Look, Elaine G.R. Russo, we're not interested in having you install people who will stand over us like we're big babies and evaluate us and have intentions and listen to us. We're not going to have anything to do with them, and we're not going to vote for them. So she says, well, that's an important quality in a candidate. No, it's not. Progressive values, progressiveness is a quality and is the important quality. And I don't know who Rick Saccone is. I mean, I've heard that name a few times, but I don't really know. He's probably the Republican. Oh no, maybe he's the progressive. And she says he has already banned me, at least 2 other people, from his campaign's Facebook page. Yeah, because you're a fucking asshole. You know, of course he banned you. You come in trying to tell him that he doesn't even, and you just made sure that he didn't have a chance. Just like you did to Bernie at the nomination, right? So she's pissed off at, I'm assuming Rick Saccone. I'm going to have to look him up. So she's an asshole to him, and then she blames him for being an asshole back to him. It's a classic move, right? Oh, he's an asshole, and we don't like him because he's mean to us. Oh, what I did to him? Oh no, not going to talk about that. Look at this. Progressives are a minority in the 18th district. Why don't you let that be determined by the voting that you're not having, huh? It's more important to have a candidate who can actually win. I mean, this is just deja vu, right, of Bernie Sanders. I mean, when he first started, that was all we used to have, listen to, is these asshole establishment Democrats telling us, but he can't win, but he can't win. And then he almost beat her ass even after he was cheated. And here we go again, by appealing to moderates in both parties. God damn. You're saying that you want to win by getting Republicans to vote for you. Connor Lamb is that candidate. This is the same kind of nonsense. So this is what I say. This is about agendas and platforms. For real progressives, there are issues that are deal breakers, like 1, taking donations that are from people who wish to bribe our candidates, 2, single payer, 3, pro-choice, etc. So I'm just kind of saying that. So we're just not interested in arguing about these things. The candidate is either progressive or he's not, or her. Just like we didn't vote for Hillary. I mean, have establishment Dems forgotten already? Amnesia strikes at will. So no, you don't lose because you can't listen to the majority of Dems. Who are mostly progressive. So, you know, I point out just the opposite of what she's saying. You know, most Democrats aren't, and then I put in my, you know, they're not establishment Dems. And we win elections by 17, well, I'll say that in a minute. But I love to put in my little memes, and this is of the Saturday Night Live skit with, what was his name, who died, unfortunately. It says, remember that time we said we'd never vote for you? And there's a picture of Hillary there. And you said, too bad, I'm your candidate, vote for me. And then we didn't vote for you and you lost? That was awesome. And then I post, and I know a lot of people in the 18th and spend a lot of time with them, and I do. I know you know, I went to school with a girl who lives there, and some of my best friends from California moved there and live in that district. And I went and stayed with them and spent weeks with them, you know, because they were my friends from California, and got to know lots of people around there. And they're not, I mean, you can't say that just because they're rich, they're conservative. The people I knew were very liberal, very friendly, very easy to get along with, very capable of understanding rational arguments, which means they're not conservative, because conservatives lose those arguments. So, in fact, in my experience, they're very progressive, because progressives simply want what's best for the country. And so do they. And then I say, and while you can ignore us with your undemocratic thug committees and powwows where you strip the people of their right to choose the people of the 18th, will not ignore, choose the people. I'm sorry. Let me say that again. So powwows where you strip the people of their right to choose. The people of the 18th will not ignore progressives. We will rally the people again not to vote Democrat until we get a progressive Dem. So nicely done again, establishment Dems. Well done. So you can see why they've removed that post. And what I posted was just another one of my, whoops, I'm sorry, another one of my memes where it shows a guy in a voting booth trying to pick between two buttons. One says let the DNC get away with corruption, and the other button says Trump presidency. I mean, these are great memes, right? And that one's not mine. I didn't make it. Neither one of these are mine, actually, but I liked them. Okay, so they may be able to get rid of that post. I don't seem, let's see if we go to posts if it shows up. Yeah, see, maybe they just posted a bunch of shit to pile it on top of it so it doesn't show at the top. Or maybe they deleted it. They probably deleted it. Because now there's only my comment on this one, which is the pinned post. The other one's gotten wiped out. Okay. So this is a conversation I had with somebody from whoever speaks for Progress 18, Pennsylvania. And says thanks for messaging us, And I said, where is the progressive? And they wrote to me, which is probably just a cut and paste, the progressive was soundly defeated at the Democratic special election nominating convention. Nearly 500 people from all over the district. Okay, so it wasn't all over the state, it was from all over the district. So, but anyway, 500 people, even if they were from the district, is not representative of 18,000 people, which I think is in the district, gathered, and the progressive candidates could not garner more than a dozen votes. And give me a break. First of all, how do you represent you're saying these 500 people represent the 18,000 people in the district? or maybe more. I don't know how many people are in the district exactly. Seem to remember 18,000 was the number from my readings. We'll probably run across that. But the real point here is, were the people, the thousands of people in the district, actually educated in these candidates, and were all these candidates given the opportunity to represent themselves and educate the people of the district so that the people of the district could make the decision? No. This is a very non-democratic way. These 500 people are the establishment Democrats. That's all they are. So yeah, if you get together 500 establishment Democrats and have a vote in a room somewhere, of course we're going to lose. And I mean, it's just crazy, right? I mean, this is just another example of how moneyed people set things up for themselves. And here she's going to say progressivism is not black and white. Yeah, it is actually. You know, you either support, you're either pro-choice or you're not. You're either for health care as a right or you're not. And, you know, Connor leans progressive on many issues. We don't want people who lean. We want people who do. We want them to support the health care. We want them to support pro-choice. This is bullshit. We don't want somebody who gives, you know, just pretends to and then doesn't actually vote that way. You know, and they pick a guy who's got a pretty face, who's got money. I mean, this guy's an asshole, actually. You know, he was a soldier, which means that he was trained to kill people. There's, you know, I've looked into his past, and he's not anything that we want. And then, of course, they're going to talk about how they can win and we can't. So progressive candidates can't win, but they can. So I say I won't vote for an establishment Democrat, period. I will vote against them if they have even a chance of winning. So I point out again, you know, that hey, we're gonna just continue to torpedo your candidates until you put in a progressive. First, if they don't have a good chance of winning, progressive Dems, first, I think I meant off. They don't have a good chance of winning. I don't think that, yeah, establishment Democrats lose all the time, and every once in a while they'll win, like they did. Well, no, they ended up losing in Virginia. Where was it that they won? Somewhere in Alabama, I think, or Louisiana. No, Alabama, I think. But they just barely squeaked by a fucking Nazi, this Roy Moore guy. Just barely. I mean, who knows how much we would have won by if the Dems had actually had the balls to put a progressive up against him. We would have kicked his ass. 15 to 20 points, I guarantee you. Progressive Dems have been kicking the shit out of Republicans since Trump won. I'm sure you know that. It's a mistake putting this guy in. He will probably lose. The committee people must go. They don't represent the Democratic Party. The party is progressive now. And establishment Dems will be just a bad memory in 2020. Maybe I have the wrong person. Where is Mickey Reedy? This is a girl who has at least questioned, and she's a member of this Progress 18. But she's nowhere to be found anymore. I'll bet they kicked her out. I'll bet they don't want either that or they bought her off. Who knows? If she's not around, I'd like to talk to another progressive. And then I say, where is the progressive? And this is weird the way it throws in their post that I just showed you with the thing about buttons, buttons, buttons. And this is the same thing that she said. She wants me to go to his Connor Lamb's webpage and read his positions on the issues. I already know about the issues that like he's not pro-choice. He's a lifer, like a Republican, like a right-wing Republican, and that's because he's Catholic. And he already said he doesn't support universal health care. This is the same thing that we just read. And this is the same stuff. I don't know why it's all regurgitated in here. Maybe because I sent to the establishment Democrats to okay, so Saccone is the Republican. Of course, Republican banned her from his group. I mean, you get in there, it's just like they ban me when I come into they delete my posts and stuff. Same kind of crap. But who is the person who's the progressive? See, they just don't even look at this. And they're going up against this, or the guy who was in there was Tim Murphy probably, and now he's out because he was having an affair with somebody. But they look the same. I mean, this guy right here, he doesn't look any different from this guy right here. Two people on opposite sides and they both look alike. I don't know what's going on in this country. That one group of people, all rich white people, can all get together and take over the country and pretend like it's a democracy. I mean, it's just amazing to me. So I went to this Twitter feed of this girl, that's supposed to be a progressive, and this Mikey Reedy. I put in activist Mount Lebanon, and I began looking for her, and I tweeted to her a couple of times. But you know what? I just don't know how Twitter works. Just don't understand it yet, quite how it works. Like, I tweeted to her 4 tweets, but where do I see those tweets? I mean, my page is all piled up with stuff that I know nothing about, right? It's just stuff that they think by my activity I would want to see. But where are my tweets? So, and I'm not going to try and figure it out now while I'm talking to you about this stuff. But basically what I did was I found her on Twitter through something that I saw in here. Probably something I'll run across in here. And see, here's her Facebook. And I've sent a friend request, but got nothing in return. Here's the messages I sent her. Are you the Mikey Reedy I've been reading about from Pennsylvania? And she is. And I said, yep, I'm sure you are now. I'd like to talk to you about how the establishment Democrats are cheating progressives out of their rightful shot at being nominees. Nothing. Gotten nothing back, and that was probably a week ago. So I might go through and read some of these issues that she has. But without being her friend, I don't think I can see most of her posts. Again, I'll go through these articles that I've set aside. This is another Mother Jones article, but after they slagged this guy on top of us, yoked us. This is another one. I would vote for him. I mean, I would not vote for this guy. And he'll probably lose to the Republican. This is a Republican district. The only thing that can win it for us is a progressive. And he would have to get in there, you know, yesterday and start promoting his message in order to win. And I will go through this one. This is a Google search that I never did actually look through, and it says 18th Congressional District, Progressive Democrat. And maybe I'll find out more about it, because so far I haven't even got a name for the progressive who was supposedly lost, who supposedly only garnered 2 votes. I mean, they're such assholes, these establishment Democrats, the way they talk about how they win. You know, of course you won. You got 500 of your own people together in a room and voted. Why wouldn't you win? And so you got Trump, of course, supporting the Republican. And, you know, I mean, it's amazing. And this will be the last thing I'm going to say on this for now. That they'll probably lose with this guy, this Connor Lamb. And they're going to lose to a guy who is for torture. He actually has tortured people. He was actually, he worked at Abu Ghraib and tortured people. And now he supports torture. He supports waterboarding. He supports hanging people from ceilings. And I mean, this is fucking medieval shit, right? And these people are fucking assholes. Just amazing that they could even stand a chance of winning. Whew. Disgusting. And, you know, and then on top of that, that's what establishment Democrats are going to say. Well, you don't want a guy like this winning, do you? So you need to vote for us. No, we don't want a guy like this winning. So we want a progressive candidate that will win. A progressive candidate gets in there and talks about all this stuff that I've just been talking about. They win by 18, 20 points. Democratic establishment candidate is probably going to lose. I hope he loses. I mean, they deserve, just like with the general election, They got what they deserved. Hillary got her ass kicked. I don't want to hear about these 3 million votes she supposedly had more than Trump. It doesn't matter. And we wanted her to lose. We wanted her to lose. You know, you can criticize us all you want, but we have our strategy, and our strategy is to, at the very least, not vote for any establishment Democrats. We're in this to win, man. We're not going to screw around with you people anymore. We're going to win. And if we win by losing, well, that's how we win. And in the end, we'll win. Hillary not in the White House is the best thing that ever happened to establishment Dems. I mean, yeah, it's the best thing that ever happened to establishment Dems. Their own people are better off losing. And it's definitely the best thing that happened to, or the best thing for progressive Dems. We don't need her in there lording over the Democratic Party, bragging about winning, and then supposedly, I mean, they're going to take everything that happens and claim and use the media and their power to fool people into believing that they're the right choice. This is an excellent article. I will definitely
GOP candidate for Pennsylvania special election is a former ABUGHRAIB interrogation consultant. Lee Fang, January 19, 2018, 10:27 a.m. Rick Saccone, the GOP nominee in Pennsylvania's 18th congressional district, is a former intelligence support consultant for the U.S. Army at the infamous Abu Ghraib prison. He has written extensively in support of interrogation tactics widely condemned by human rights experts as torture. Over the years, drawing upon his experience in Iraq, Saccone has promoted waterboarding, stress positions, sleep deprivation, as well as threatening prisoners with execution, dogs, and electrocution as necessary tactics for obtaining information from detainees. On Thursday, President Donald Trump appeared in North Fayette Township in Pennsylvania to promote Saccone's candidacy. Despite the district going to Trump by some 20 points in November, the GOP is at risk of losing it to Democrat Conor Lamb. The election was triggered by the sudden resignation of Representative Tim Murphy, RPA, after revelations last year that the anti-abortion lawmaker had pressured his mistress to seek an abortion. The Intercept reached out to the Saccone campaign but did not receive the response to multiple requests for comment. In his book, The Unseen War in Iraq, and in a series of newspaper columns, Saccone argued for the use of such tactics, claiming that so-called enhanced interrogation methods are both legal and effective means for extracting intelligence. International human rights attorneys reject the former claim, and an extensive investigation by the Senate Intelligence Committee rejects the latter. Since the enemy is not an army, wears no uniform, Saccone wrote in his book, the UN Convention Against Torture does not apply. Saccone dismisses federal law defining interrogation methods that inflict severe mental pain and suffering as torture because the threshold of pain varies among individuals. Any methods that do not inflict long-lasting pain that leaves permanent physical damage, Saccone argues, should be considered. Saccone told local media in Pittsburgh that he arrived in Abu Ghraib long after the scandal that brought that wretched place such fame. But the infamy of the scandal, in which contractors and military officers tortured and raped Iraqi detainees at the U.S. operated prison, left a deep impression on Salcone. Images from Abu Ghraib prison, splashed across newspaper front pages and TV news screens for months on end, did more to damage honest discussion than the acts themselves, he later argued. The press refused to mention that in our system those who abused prisoners were punished as opposed to our enemies who encouraged abuse. In The Unseen War, Salcone spends 2 chapters discussing anecdotes in which other forms of interrogation human rights experts have criticized as torture should be embraced when administered in proper measures and with proper skill. Salcone has long maintained that the simulated drowning of several suspects, the technique known as waterboarding, does not qualify as torture because it is quick and does not inflict permanent physical injury. The technique, he claims, produced valuable information in the War on Terror when it was used on suspects such as Abu Zubaydah, who he says divulged much needed intelligence in only 34 seconds of waterboarding. The Senate Intelligence Committee, however, found that Zubaydah was waterboarded 83 times in a single month, so brutally in fact that he became completely unresponsive, with bubbles rising through his open, full mouth. The Bush administration claimed that Zubaydah was a high-profile member of Al-Qaeda and that through brutal interrogation, he had revealed ties between Al-Qaeda and Saddam Hussein. But Rebecca Gordon, the author of Mainstreaming Torture, notes that the government later retracted claims that Zubaydah was an Al-Qaeda leader and that the supposed intelligence he provided on Saddam has been widely debunked. Torture can indeed prompt the detainee to provide their abusers information, but oftentimes that information is simply false, delivered in hopes of ending the torture. Gordon also points out that Salcone is simply misinterpreting the UN Convention Against Torture, which plainly restricts torture against all people, not only uniformed combatants. Salcone draws on his own personal experience to argue broadly for expanded use of techniques criticized as torture. The examples from his time in Iraq include telling the suspect that, unless he confesses, he will be turned over to a militia that will execute him. In another, Salcone writes about a hardened suspect that expressed fear when he saw a large German police dog. So Salcone made the suspect believe he would release the dog to attack the suspect unless he provided information. And in another, Salcone discusses using live wires to threaten a detainee with electrocution. The threats of electrocution, of attacks by dogs, recommended by Salcone are also clearly illegal under the Convention Against Torture, which prohibits both physical and mental suffering, says Gordon. Indeed, she adds, torture's mental suffering may well have the most enduring effects on its victims, as evidenced by a remarkable series of interviews with Guantanamo survivors. While Salcone hasn't made torture the primary part of his political appeal, his congressional campaign website touts his work identifying, capturing, and interrogating insurgents in Iraq. Salcone, who was elected during the Tea Party wave election of 2010 to a state legislative seat, has played up social issues in his bid for Congress this year. He is known generally in state politics for attempting to make 2012 the year of the Bible, and has long campaigned on the claim that there should be no separation of church and state. God has set out a plan for us, Saucony told a Christian right radio host last year, discussing his plans for federal office. He wants godly men and women in all aspects of life. He wants people who will rule with the fear of God in them to rule over us. Trump's embrace of Saucony is mutual. I was Trump before Trump was Trump, Saucony has boasted. I ran on that agenda in 2010. It's the same agenda. It's the people's agenda. The president just nationalized it.
In July, New Hampshire, you told the crowd you, quote, take a backseat to no one when it comes to progressive values.
I take a backseat to no one when you look at my record in standing up and fighting for progressive values.
Last month in Ohio, you said you plead guilty to, quote, being kind of moderate and center. Do you change your political identity based on who you're talking to?
No, I think that, like most people that I know, I have a range of views, but they are rooted in my values and my experience.
You know, I get accused of being kind of moderate and center. I plead guilty.
Just for the record, are you a progressive or are you a moderate?
I'm a
never-before-seen video of Hillary Clinton inside the Walmart empire. She's probably one of the most investigative politicians in American history. And this morning you're going to see her in a way you've never seen her before, serving on the board of Walmart. ABC News Chief Investigative Correspondent Brian Ross is here with details on this. Good morning, Brian.
Good morning, Robin. Although she makes no mention of it in her official biography, Hillary Clinton served for 6 years on the board of Walmart, the huge retailer criticized by many for its treatment of workers and its strident opposition to unions. Walmart's opposition to unions was led for decades by labor lawyer John Tate, who after his retirement proudly recalled at this company meeting in 2004 what he said was his favorite phrase.
Labor unions are nothing but blood-sucking parasites living off of the productive labor of people who work for a living.
Hillary Clinton was not present at this Walmart meeting, but Tate was relied on for years to keep unions out at Walmart, including during the 6 years from 1986 to 92, when Clinton was on the Walmart board and Tate was either an executive or a member of the board himself.
Going through the emails, there were over 60,000 in total sent and received. About half were work-related and went to the State Department, and about half were personal that were not in any way related to my work.
When you speak to the public, you say, I turned over everything. That's, for the most part, a direct quote. When you talk to the public, you say I turned over everything.
90 to 95% of my work-related emails were in the state system. If they wanted to see them, they would certainly have been able to do so.
You know what? That is maybe the 10th time you have cited that figure today.
It is.
And I have not heard anyone other than you ever cite that figure. Who told you that 90 to 95% of your emails were in the State Department system? Who told you that?
We learned that from the State Department in their analysis of the emails that were already on the system.
The Inspector General report found that less than 1% of State Department emails, record emails, were captured. So they give a number of less than 1%, and you give a number of 90%.
Interest in Libya in 2012.
The server contains personal communications from my husband and me.
Only time I got on the internet, I did 2 emails, and I ordered Christmas presents from a reservation. Otherwise, I found people said embarrassing things on emails. I didn't want to be one of them.
I mean, and how many angels dance on the head of a pin? I have really nothing to. I mean,
represented Wall Street as a senator from New York, and I went to Wall Street in December of 2007, before the big crash that we had, and I basically said, cut it out. Quit foreclosing on homes. Quit engaging in these kinds of speculative behaviors.
Now, who's exactly to blame for the housing crisis? And I think there's plenty of blame to go around. Home buyers who paid extra fees to avoid documenting their income should have known they were getting in over their heads.
Of course we have to deal with the problem that the banks are still too big to fail. We can never let the American taxpayer and middle-class families ever have to bail out the kind of speculative behavior that we saw. But we also have to worry about some of the other players. AIG, a big insurance company, Lehman Brothers, an investment bank. There's this whole area called shadow banking. That's where the experts tell me the next potential problem could come from. So I'm with both Senator Sanders and Governor O'Malley in putting a lot of... I represented New York, and I represented New York on 9/11. When we were attacked, where were we attacked? We were attacked in downtown Manhattan, where Wall Street is. I did spend a whole lot of time and effort helping them rebuild. That was good for New York, it was good for the economy, and it was a way to rebuke the terrorists who had attacked our country.
9/11 was bad.
I agree with you.
As Senator Clinton, the pressures are very different. It's a well-financed industry. A lot of people don't realize that the industry that gave the most money to Washington over the past few years was not the oil industry, was not pharmaceuticals. It was consumer credit products. Those are the people, the credit card companies have been giving money, and they have influence.
And Mrs. Clinton was one of them, a senator.
She has taken money from the groups, and more to the point, She worries about them as a constituency.
So what does this mean, though, to these people, these millions of people out there whom the politicians cavort in front of as favoring the middle class and then are beholden to the powerful interests that undermine the middle class? What does it say about politics today?
You know, this is the scary part about democracy today. We're talking again about the impact of money. The credit industry on this bankruptcy bill has spent tens of millions of dollars lobbying, and as their profits grow, they just throw more into lobbying for how they can get laws that will make it easier and easier and easier to drain money out of the pockets of middle-class families.